Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Mr. Zombie here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 16 of What If Izuku Had a Villain Quirk. I just wanted to greet you guys by saying sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. So, we begin. Izuku was meditating in his room, a suggestion by his old mentor that would allow him to more easily switch from emotion to emotion. He was in a relaxed position. The sound of his old All Might videos in the background provided a calm and nostalgic feeling, but was interrupted by the ringing of the doorbell to his house. The teen opened the door to find Kaminari and Mineta. The two invited them to the pool with them. They dragged him to the school where they had turned in a request to use the pool in the facility for endurance training. Upon receiving confirmation, the trio went to the pool and Izuku invited the rest of their class, much to his perverted classmates' dismay. Rather than what the two had planned, the males ended up actually training with their classmates. They were absolutely worn out when Ida finally called for everyone to have a break. The blue-haired male went over to Midoriya, handing him a drink as he sat next to him. The Verdinian-eyed youth noticed this and started up a conversation. Hey, is something wrong, Ida? No, not at all. I was thinking. The teen huffed a laugh as he sipped his drink. Out of all the people who lectured me after the Hostu incident, it was your words that really struck a chord. We were never really close, and yet you knew exactly what to say to me. Well, I guess that's just how my mind works. The jungle adolescent laughed softly. I've always been the kind to analyze, well, everything. I play through as many situations as possible, look deeper into problems, sometimes into the problems of others. I saw how desperately you wanted to live up to the Ingenium name, and I saw the amazing potential that you had to do it. The two exchanged smiles as they were interrupted by the loud yelling of a certain abrasive blonde. A race was proposed by Ida due to Bakugo's competitive spirit, and that filled up the last of the time slots the students had. Seeing everyone's quirks all together sparked memories in Todoroki, Izuku, and Tenya's minds. Promises of being the best heroes they could be. Heroes that were in a league all on their own. Everyone left to head home afterwards, thoroughly exhausted. Class 1A met up the next day right outside UA. Aizawa was giving them a speech about how they would be improving themselves at the training camp. To go beyond, plus ultra style. Izuku was chatting with Momo and Shoto. The trio conversing on what could go down on the camp. The excitement was even getting to their normally stoic heterochromatic friend, his dual-colored eyes gleaming with a readiness and determination. That seemed to be the general mood. Even Class 1B who would be joining them had the same level of excitement. Aizawa turned his head, started a sentence of how they would be arriving at the first stop in an hour, only to find literally no one was listening to them. The bus came to a stop at a mountain overlook, everyone stretching out from the hour they spent shoulder to shoulder on the bus. Several questions came about why they stopped in such a place, hearing the 1A homeroom teacher ask them if they really thought they were here just for a pit stop. The question was answered by the door to the car next to them opening. Figures that only some of the students had only seen in video games and magazines stepped out. The duo that were there performed a choreographed dance, introducing themselves as the Wild Wild Pussycats. They explained that their group owned a giant stretch of the land in the mountain range and pointed out the location of the camp, which was several miles away from where they were and down the mountain. Catching on about what was going to happen, the students all began to inch back towards the bus. Some even began to sprint towards it. This was all for naught as a wave of earth swallowed them all and tossed them carelessly off the cliff they were perched on. Mandalay called down to where the students fell, saying that they should be able to make it to the camp by lunch, if they could make it past the forest of beasts. They promptly found out it was aptly named, as a monstrous thing blocked the way of Mineta as the diminutive boy attempted to speed through for a bathroom break. It raised a three-fingered hand, preparing to crush the purple-haired boy. Koda attempted to use his quirk to calm the beast. However, Izuku could see it had no effect on it and used its quirk to propel himself towards and knock Minoru out of the monster's way. He pondered why the classmates' Ana voice had no effect. Then he saw part of the thing's jaw crumble away. He called out his discovery to his classmates. Several of them assisted in taking down their opponent in a matter of seconds. Just as they thought they had a break, they heard roaring in the distance, with everyone's guard being up again. The students knew their only possible method of getting to the camp in time was to cut through the forest and take the quickest possible route. Together. The class separated into groups, everyone working together to take down the wave of earthling monsters coming their way. Midoriya, despite being at a disadvantage due to their foes being abiotic, still used his quirk as best as he could. The team called for Ida to help launch him faster through the air, where he swung up onto a monster and used his gas to slam it into the ground. Despite their best efforts, the never-ending wave of enemies exhausted them, extending the time it took to get to the camp all the way to sunset. They all looked like zombies as they stumbled out of the tree line. They expected to be scolded for how long it took them to be free of the forest, only for the blonde pussycat to start singing praises about how well they did. She even gave extra praise to Tenya, Shoto, Katsuki, and Izuku, saying that they did exceptionally well. She was so hyped up that she claimed dibs on the students, much to their dismay. Eventually, the Emerald-Eyed Boy spoke up and pointed out the little kid that had been with the two pros since the beginning of the day, wondering who he was. Mandalay explained that Koda was the son of their cousin and that he was now living with them. When the boy was asked to say hello, all he did was glower silently. The protege of Midnight was extremely hesitant to approach him, noting how intense the glare he had aimed at him was. He prompted Ida to do so instead. The boy walked up to Koda and said hello, only for the boy to receive an uppercut directly to a sensitive place. The jungle-haired boy went to help his friend, gently scolding the little kid about how wrong it is to punch someone when they were just trying to introduce themselves. The menacing tyke turned back towards him, saying how he didn't wish to be around wannabe heroes, and stalked off. The students were given a hearty dinner to make up for the fact they lost out on lunch. In the corner of his eyes, Midoriya saw Mandalay's second cousin stalk off with a box of vegetables. He wondered whatever could have gotten him in such an attitude. Afterwards, while their students were bathing, Mineta was up to his perverted ways once more, even climbing the wall separating the boys and girls, only to be smacked down by Koda. The boy was thanked by the girls, instinctively looking at them and then stumbling back, falling off the wall with Midoriya barely catching him. The freckled youth brought the kid to Mandalay, the boy currently unconscious. The thought was greatly appreciated by the telepathic hero, as she took care of her cousin's son. The student's curiosity got the better of him as he questioned why the raven-haired kid hated heroes so much. Pixie Bob entered the room to begin answering the question. Koda's parents were also heroes, and they had been murdered while defending citizens, an honorable death for a hero. However, to their son, it was as if they just up and left him. It likely made him bitter towards many people, especially since they seemed to be so set on praising the way that they died. The brunette woman expressed a concern on whether or not her cousin felt trapped living with her. The male could do nothing but stand there, having no reply for what information he had just received. The next day had the students up and early for training. Eraserhead was being vague about what they were doing, handing a ball to Bakugo to throw it, exactly like when they first tested them. Some of the pupils guessed it was like a benchmark to see how much stronger their quirks had gotten. However, when the ball finally landed, the Ashen Blonde discovered his score had barely improved. Their teacher admitted that while they had been through a lot and some aspects of their abilities have improved, the raw potential of their quirks was still lacking. Everyone was assigned unique exercises that would push the boundaries of their quirks and improve on their power, potency, and volume of their quirk. Izuku himself was separated farther away from the other students in order for his quirk to not affect them. He was letting out concentrated blasts of his gas against the dirt monsters Class A fought before. The task he had was to keep them back, or even shatter the exterior of them with the pressure of the gas, while also working on how fast he could produce his gas. That combined with the other ridiculously rough jobs given to the rest of the classmates made one be pale as they met up with their fellow UA students. The training didn't die down until the sun was, once more, setting in the distant mountaintops. It was then that Ragdoll revealed that the students would be cooking their own meals that night, much to some of their dismay. Tenya attempted to get everyone more hyped up about doing the job by comparing it to how they would need the expertise as heroes, often tending to the material needs that the citizens would have. As everyone had begun to eat, Emerald Eyes watched as a certain black-haired kid stalked away from all the commotion. He grabbed a plate of rice and curry and quietly followed the boy to a small cliff overhanging the forest. The sound of his stomach rumbling made Midoriya shake his head as he announced his presence. "It sounds like you're rather hungry." The tyke's head snapped around as he glared at the intruder. "I brought you some curry from the camp. I'd suggest eating it before it gets cold." "Just leave me alone. How did you even get here?" I followed your footsteps. I'm used to being quiet, so following you was pretty easy." Kota glared at the plate of food, mad at his secret hideout being discovered. Just get out of here. I don't want to hang out with you. The boy allowed his hat to shadow his eyes as he turned from the teen. Spending your time to improve your quirk is stupid. All you want to do is show off. Izuku stayed exactly where he stood and carefully approached the topic of the kid's parents, setting him off and making him blame Mandalay immediately. The young man apologized softly as he explained he had to put research into them, the water hose heroes, and what happened to them. The jungle-haired listened as the child before him ranted, catching on that he didn't hate heroes. He hated quirks as a whole. You think that all quirks do is hurt people, don't you? I thought that way about my quirk, you know. He felt eyes on him as he continued. I always thought my quirk could only hurt others. I refused to look past it. I didn't realize that there was so much more to it. Will you shut up already? I told you to leave me alone. Kota whipped his head towards the freckled adolescent before him. What are you even talking about? What does that even have to do with you? The protege of Midnight finished off his question. Your experience with the quirks has made you bitter towards them. I understand that you're in pain, but that pain is binded into you thinking that the existence of quirks is why your parents died. If you want to blame anything, blame the messed up persona that the villain had killed them had. I'll leave the curry here for you. Please contemplate what I said, Kota, and head home soon. Mandalay's worried about you. The teen walked away as the boy looked down at his plate, fists clenched. He softly whispered for everyone to shut up as he shook lightly. On a plateau several miles away, a group was congregated. They were all villains, waiting for a few more of their own. Each one was far more dangerous than the petty thugs from the USJ incident. They were stronger, smarter, and more cunning than any of them. Fate just hated making life easy for UA students. The next day was filled with even more training. Many of the students were exhausted before the stroke of noon that day. Midori was slightly fatigued from the exercise, but for the most part he was better off than the other students. He briefly contemplated asking his teacher if any of the other staff would arrive, before dismissing it after remembering the hoops Eraserhead had talked about and keeping the location undisclosed. Everyone did their best until it was time for them to cook their meals under the setting sun. Jade-colored eyes scanned the ground as he searched for Kota, noting that the boy was probably at his secret hideout again. He struck up with Todoroki, explaining everything that occurred the previous night. Hey, do you think my advice was well given, Shoto? Maybe I could have been greater in delivering it. I don't know, what do you think? I think you did your best. Words can only go so far, Izuku. The heterochromatic boy set the pot he was holding down. It's actions that produce the most notable effects. If you really want to get to him, do something about it. The words of his friend resonated with something deep within him. Memories of how he met All Might and Midnight, working hard to get the recommended letter, even forcing Todoroki to use his fire. Each one was something that occurred from his own actions, not his words. You always know what to say, Shoto. I'm glad to have you and Momo as friends. The freckle-haired boy grinned as he glanced at the son of Endeavor, noting the barest hint of a smile. Although I must admit it, you get awfully nosy at times, Izuku. It can get annoying. A blunt statement made the teen wheeze and laugh bashfully. As night finally fell, it was revealed that the two classes would be having a test of bravery competition where the students of UA would go around a trail while 1B attempted to scare them. Midoriya's classmates found it rather amusing that their classmate, someone with the ability to make people see what they feared most, was going to get frightened by someone. Time passed as the pairs entered the forest, one at a time to do their task. Everything seemed normal at first, until Pixie Bob caught a scent of something. A scent like smoke. Things went downhill from there. The blonde pussycat was pulled into the forest and knocked down by a duo of villains. Izuku was the first one to run forward, only to be blocked by Tiger. A thought came to mind as he threw his head around. Kota was missing, and with how things were looking, he could be in terrible danger. For the League of the Villains was attacking once more. Thank you all for sticking around, and I hope that you enjoyed. Before you leave, I would like to let you all know that We the Celestials has many other channels for your entertainment and viewing purposes. All the information you'll need is right below here in the description, so feel free to check out all the other incredible projects our team creates. On behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everybody involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details are in the description below. That's it for today's video, so goodbye and have a divine day!